it or we don't!
Let me handle this. Gwendolyn, leave my family alone. Never mind, it didn't work.
Stand down, Tom. This is a job for my new husband. My hero.
Let's do it!
Oh, that really took it out of you, didn't it, baby? Let's get you home to an Epsom salt bath.
Oh, who am I kidding? You two make a great team, honey.
I know I review a lot of vile and utterly repulsive video games on this channel, but I think High on Life 2 really takes the cake. I know I just said this in my Outer Worlds 2 review, but I think this is another one of the most disgusting video games I have ever played. And it's also another massive flop to the surprise of no one. Now, believe it or not, I actually did play the first High on Life, but I didn't review it at the time. I can't remember if it was out of laziness or maybe I just didn't think it was interesting enough to cover. Because truth be told, the first game is actually not that bad. Yes, it was horrifically unfunny. I mean, it's a Justin Roiland game. Think Rick and Morty Season 3 onward type humor. I think I only laughed 3 times over the course of the entire game, and 2 out of 3 of those times were effectively the same joke, where I could just kill an NPC that seemed like it was essential. And the third one was just a mentally handicapped character doing a funny voice, which gets me every time. But ultimately, I would say the game is just forgettable. And I really mean that literally, because I couldn't remember 90% of it despite it coming out just a few years ago. But High on Life 2, oh god, this thing is so horrific, it's unreal. On the one hand, it is actually slightly funnier than the first game. Now, you could argue it throws twice as many shitty jokes at you, so of course, maybe a few more are going to land. But it also has way worse jokes, and just utterly repulsive, disgusting shit. In the beginning of the game, your mother cheats on your dad with one of the Gatlians, the mentally handicapped one, by the way, and later, it's introduced to you, you actually have a half-brother who is also retarded and can only say one word, and he looks like a disgusting abomination. This is what they want for the future of the human race, and they're just rubbing it in your face as if it's a joke. Neither your character nor your sister treats this as anything weird. You never try to shame your mother for cheating on your father at any point. Your dad goes through an entire mission that is a glorified humiliation ritual, and at no point is it ever treated like the mom is the bad guy. I was seething with rage at multiple points in this game, though most of the time I was honestly just bored. Ironically, I think the biggest downgrade between this game and the first one is that this is way more of a movie game. Believe it or not, High on Life 1 actually had some sort of light Metroidvania elements. You had a real reason to come back to levels, there was a sort of semi-linearity to things with like these little sandboxes. In the sequel, every single mission is a linear hallway, just broken up by really basic puzzles. There's definitely more cutscenes than there is gameplay, and just like the first game, most of the content of these cutscenes are basically a series of rejected comedy skits from SNL, or maybe more appropriately, Rick and Morty, which is ironic given Justin Roiland resigned from his own studio he created because of the sexual assault allegations or whatever the hell they were, which makes you question where the funding for this game even came from, because this is self-published. I was under the belief that Microsoft published this game, given that it is a day one Game Pass game. But no, officially, this is an indie game, if you want to go by that definition anyway. Yes, this was developed and published by Squanch Games. Now, there's no doubt that Microsoft paid for a lot of this game's development.
Or did you get it for free with some deal? One of those game services, huh? I bet you're playing it on one of those game services. That's money out of our pockets, I'll have you know. I mean, yeah, they pay us a lot to put it on those things, like millions sometimes, but still.
And I think it's pretty obvious to anyone who's a noticer here where the rest of that money came from. There sure are a lot of early life sections you can read on the developers involved with this game. One of the most interesting ones is the lead narrative designer, Alec Robbins, who apparently created an award-winning webcomic where his self-insert character dates Betty Boop. I wish I was making this shit up. So, of course, you can expect a lot of the types of disgusting humor that God's chosen people love to put in their art. I think you know exactly what to expect based on that description, and I'll try to include some of the most notable clips in this review. Oh, and I feel like I've said more than enough things to make nobody with any sanity want to try this game, but I definitely think it's worth mentioning that I also got a game-breaking bug within 30 minutes of the end of the game. Yeah, so I got hard locked out of fighting the final boss and had to watch the ending on YouTube. All right, that's more than enough preamble. Let's get into the review. Before I get into High on Life 2, I'll briefly explain what High on Life 1 was about. You play as a human whose planet is invaded by the G3 cartel, who seeks to turn human beings into drugs. And so, with the help of an alien race of guns called Gatlians, you become a bounty hunter and take on missions to eliminate the cartel. Eventually, you stop them and save the humans, and you become a bounty hunter celebrity, which leads directly into the second game. It gives you a brief intro that shows how you end up losing all of your money, your fame, and even a wife of your choice. Of course, the 3 alien women you have to choose from look grotesque, and they ultimately just leave you anyway. Just another unfunny gag. Speaking of which, this is where you learn that your mother cheated on your father with "Let's do it," the BFG from the first game. And as I already spoiled in the intro, this becomes important later. You also get to see that your dad is living in an apartment by himself with like no furniture, so obviously your mom took everything. Isn't that funny? And this whole sequence ends with you back at your house from the first game, which you learn is now inside a museum dedicated to all of your accomplishments from the first game, since you're a celebrity. Now, there's gonna be many plot points in this game that are gonna make you ask, what the fuck? How does that make any sense? And of course, that's the joke. There is no explanation. You just canonically live in a museum in space. Now, this is when the plot already gets stupid pretty fast, as you quickly find out all of your efforts in the first game were a waste of time, because instead of it being the G3 cartel that wants to turn humans into drugs, it's now Big Pharma. A company called Rhea Pharmaceuticals wants to argue in intergalactic space court that humans are too stupid to deserve rights, and so they want to pass a law so that they can legally turn humans into drugs for the benefit of all the other alien races. So basically all of the adrenochrome conspiracy theories are being confirmed true. You learn that your sister has become a freedom fighter, aka a terrorist, and so you have to rescue her from the human exhibit at the zoo. So already this is a pretty obvious plot hole. If it hasn't been ruled yet that humans don't deserve rights, how the hell is there a human zoo in the first place? In any case, you quickly track her down, and one of the only funny moments in the game happens.
Get lost, I can handle this myself.
Whoa, what's with the attitude?
Sorry, she's been through a lot.
Been through a lot.
Well, you've been partying.
What do you
and
mean
going on talk
years?
shows. I've been
How
trying
long
to
has
save
it been?
humanity.
Huh? I thought humans were already safe. What did we miss? There she is. We've got her cornered.
Yeah, shoot her.
shit.
She was a bitch to me, so she just... Oh! Oh! Yes! Now, as much as I would have liked to quit the game right there, well, obviously I need to put out some content, so I decided to play the rest for the sake of this review. So you end up betraying the Bounty Hunter League, or whatever the hell, and you end up fighting some goons and eventually a ripoff of Gex. I'm gonna very briefly touch on the combat here, and then I'll talk about it one more time later in the video, but all you need to know about the first half of the game's combat is that it's incredibly basic and very similar to the first one. Every gun has 3 different functions, which sounds pretty good on paper, but in practice, it doesn't matter that much. Because every gun in the game roughly has the same DPS, there's very little progression. So it doesn't really matter if you want to use the submachine gun, or the shotgun, or the rifle, or the bow. Ultimately, they all just kind of do the same thing. Now, the secondary function of the gun can sometimes be useful, like Sweezy can shoot an impaling spike, Gus can suck enemies toward him, which makes it easier to use the shotgun blast. but a few of the guns just aim with right click and don't even really have a second function. And then the third function, the trick hole, is the special ability, and later in the game this will completely dominate the combat because obviously since you have unlimited ammo in this game, the trick hole cooldown is the only ammo management in the game. You can optionally use a soda to instantly recharge the special ability of each gun, but once you get enough guns, you can actually just cycle through the cooldowns by switching weapons. But combat is incredibly simplistic in this game. You basically just point and shoot at guys, and it doesn't really matter who you're shooting at. Yes, there's some enemies that fly. There's an enemy that can split into two smaller enemies once you defeat him. But at the end of the day, they all do the same thing. They just shoot projectiles at you while you ride around on a skateboard super fast and just dodge everything. The combat never gets more complex. You just get more tools. That's it. It is perfectly serviceable. It's not bad, but like I said, I'm not going to really talk about it in detail. As for the bosses, all of these are the same. They're just a damage sponge. You just hold left click on, use your special abilities, and then occasionally they get stunned and you stab them with knifey. I honestly couldn't tell you about any unique mechanics any of the bosses have. At most, you might have to parry one of their attacks with melee. That's it. Back to the story, you defeat Gex, but he lives. Even after decapitating him, he can just grow his head back. But you manage to escape and make your way to the human exhibit. There you meet what is basically a discount Ryan Gosling and pet him. Yes, really. And eventually make your way to the basement of the veterinary office, which turns out to be a secret lab for Rhea Pharmaceuticals. There, a nerd emoji explains that they're refining humans into a pill called Humanza Pro that they want to sell to everyone. Then you fight Gex one more time. He's convinced he's actually the baddie. Yes, they literally do the fucking meme. I can't believe this shit. And so you and your sister escape, and you take up a new base of operations inside what looks like a 90s arcade. What ends up being an important plot point later is the gang ditches your old bounty suit because the OS was starting to turn against you. I guess it was hooked up to the bounty hunter network so that when you betrayed them, the suit was supposed to freeze you so you could be apprehended. And so they just copied the suit data into this shitty looking ski suit. Now you might be wondering, what is the ultimate plan to prevent Rhea Pharmaceuticals from winning in court and removing all rights from humans? The ultimate goal, and I swear I am not embellishing this even slightly, is to kill billionaires and celebrities and pharmaceutical reps until the company can't show up for court. It is literally the fucking socialist meme of just eat the rich and that'll solve your problems. Yes, humans psychotically murdering hundreds of people, including rich, prominent celebrities, is going to convince the intergalactic government that humans deserve rights. Does that make sense to anyone with a functioning brain? Yeah, just act like a horde of YNs. That'll convince people to sympathize with you. I think it's pretty obvious what the allegory is here, who the humans are supposed to represent. I say this without exaggeration. This might be the most retarded plot in video game history. Now, of course, the common defense for such a stupid plot would just be, why are you taking it seriously? It's obviously satire. Okay, but if I'm not taking anything seriously, why would I play this game? Why would I care about anything happening? Why would this game waste countless hours of my time with unskippable cutscenes? I have to listen to failed comedians' comedy sketches every 5 fucking minutes, and I'm not supposed to take any of this seriously. It's not funny. This is just a torture session. Again, a humiliation ritual. I know I've used that term a lot in videos the past couple years, but it describes so much of modern gaming in a nutshell. This game should not exist. The people who wrote this should be homeless and starving on the fucking streets. But no, even if Squanch Games gets shut down tomorrow, I guarantee all these devs will find a job somewhere else. Because that's exactly what fucking happened with Highguard. All those devs were former Concord devs, or worked for Bungie, or worked for Activision, or all these other companies. They should be blacklisted from the industry. Okay. Getting back to the plot. So yes, we're going to prove that humans deserve rights by murdering high-profile people. Yeah, that's gonna work. There's a metric fuck ton of referential humor in this game, and they're not even parodies, like they actually use the names. Like, you visit a Spencer's in this game. There's also a Party City right next door in the Space Mall. There's an ad for Glover and Bible Adventures made by LJN. You even get to play a small segment of said Bible Adventures game later, which was ironically one of the best parts of the game. So your first major mission takes you on a cruise to kill a billionaire. Yes, really, they refer to him as a billionaire. And you end up meeting your first new gun, even though it's not new, Travis, who is a reskin of the basic pistol that was voiced by Justin Roiland in the first game. Travis is a 43-year-old man who's about to go through a horrific divorce with his wife, Jan. And both these characters are incredibly one-note stereotypes. He is the beaten down 40-plus-year-old millennial who's going through a midlife crisis. He's incredibly pathetic, and that's the whole joke. And forgive my terminology here, but his wife is like the best portrayal, or worse, depending on how you look at it, of a turned-out post-wall roasty whore I have ever seen in a video game. Like, that is the whole joke, that she's likely slept with a fuck ton of dudes. And to spoil a later plot point, yes, you get her as a gun, so that you get to dual-wield pistols, right? And she hits on every man you come across in the game. And Travis just takes this shit, dude. This is not funny. This is infuriating. It's like they put Bill Burr and his wife in the game. Who the hell wants to see this? Anyway, to sum up a mission that probably took 2 fucking hours, you go on this luxury cruise with Travis as your date, and I want to point this out, that you basically play as a non-binary character in this game, because at no point do you pick your gender. You just get to draw whatever face you want on a piece of paper, which of course I drew a wiener, being very juvenile. And every character refers to you as a they, even your own sister. So yes, instead of the Gatlian maybe going on a date with one of your other Gatlians, I mean, you literally have a female one, Sweezy. No, you are the date for this fucking fish gun. Then you go through, no joke, what feels like an hour of cutscenes with tiny bits of gameplay in between, and finally, you end up being involved in a murder mystery where the billionaire sets up this whole scenario where he gets killed and you need to find out who killed him. And it turns out it was just his clone the whole time. The only notable thing that happens during this part is there's a fat fish alien with huge tits. The only time you see any big tits in this game. And you can just skip the whole murder mystery anyway. And then the real billionaire ends up getting killed by a fat biker bounty hunter who was hunting you down for betraying the bounty hunter clan or whatever the hell. You end up fighting your way through a sinking ship, and there's jokes about him being an environmentalist and effectively a PETA member.
Sick of pee-pee, boy!
You named that thing pee-pee, boy?
Oh, ha, ha, ha! Get on, Rick, grow up! I didn't know what pee-pee was. They didn't call it that on my home plate.
My God, it's literally beep beep boo boo. Oh, beep beep boo boo, beep 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 boo boo boo. Come on, dude. Come on. And you kill him and also indirectly kill a giant Loch Ness monster at the same time. Then your next bounty target is the Trump analog in the game, a politician that supports removing all human rights. The mission takes place at Con. Yes, it's a convention for conventions, which, despite how cheesy that sounds, would have actually been good potential for some level variety. Unfortunately, it's kind of wasted. There's a joke about finding a parking space being like a war zone. Haha, more relatability humor, as it quite literally is in this universe. You have to kill a bunch of people to secure a parking space, and you don't even end up getting it anyway. Once again, the game cucks you out of assassinating your target, as another bounty hunter named Sheath shows up, who is also hired to kill this guy. And so you end up getting a boss fight against him as the little mini Trump escapes. And then after you take him out, you start sympathizing with him. And despite knowing him for only 30 seconds, you decide to spare him by carving him up and inserting him into his own gun, effectively turning him into a Gatlian. And he ended up being my favorite gun and favorite character in the game. He's a burst fire assault rifle with a javelin alt fire that electrifies things. So they basically stole this gun from Dead Space 2. And he's the only character that talks normal in this game. Everyone is this quirky Chungus, millennial writing, goofy, one-note stereotype that is unfunny. And this is the only guy who's just serious serious, and even some of the shit he says is kind of funny.
Purge all of your egos. Prepare for punishment.
You guys feeling okay?
No! You just
Oh,
killed
that was
Brian.
easy.
What's cutting into you, kiddo?
You gave him far more
What?
of a chance than I would have.
It feels like he was written by a completely different team. He also enjoys murder, which is a good quality in a game where you want to kill every single character. Shortly after this is also arguably the best gameplay section of the game, when you enter the Murder Con, which Knifey obviously enjoys, where you just kill a bunch of random people to get points, and then you fight a Pyramid Head ripoff. Eventually, you get to the end of this mission, you fight the Discount Trump in a boss fight. I noticed there were very few actual direct references to anything Trump did in the past 10 years. I don't know if this was Microsoft telling them to tone it down, or maybe people finally got tired of the countless repetitive Trump jokes about him having small hands, or his skin is orange, or his self-aggrandizing manner of speech, etc., etc. There's really not a whole lot of that. The boss fight ends with a gimmick section where he shrinks down and crawls inside your suit. Given everything else that's disgusting about this game, I thought they were going to go for the Ant-Man Thanos meme. But no, he somehow gets inside your suit's OS, and you have to fight him in the pause menu, and then it ends with you playing Bible Adventures on the NES. Which I have to admit was interesting, not funny, but I was kind of getting into it for a second there, but then it pulls you back out of it. And the boss fight ends with you using Knifey to stab yourself in the face while the mini Trump plays Donkey Kong, and eventually you kill him but nearly bleed out. Now, there's actually no consequences for this. In fact, your sister even addresses the fact that you just killed a senator and will be on every government watch list, and your bounty is reaching unprecedented heights. Yet somehow this is all going to lead to the government ruling that yes, humans do deserve rights and shouldn't be turned into drugs. Make it make sense. Now, believe it or not, up until this point in the game, I was debating whether or not this was even worth a real review and instead just another lazy stream highlights video. But then this game took a turn. You are told to meet your half-brother at the monorail station, as your mom and Lesduit got serious and had a child out of wedlock. So you go to the monorail, you see your old buddy Creature, one of the guns from the first game, and who has little boobies, and you have to stick your arm in his orifice, and he spawns babies that attack people. And yes, you heard that right, it is a man. And Creature introduces you to your disgusting abomination of a half-brother, Jeppy. And just like his father, he can only say his name.
Jeppy! Jeppy!
I think he only says his own name. Not sure
Oh,
if that's
no.
a brain problem or not.
You cannot tell me the appearance of this disgusting abomination is not a commentary on miscegenation. This is like they, whoever they are, of course, those toucans from space, admitting that yes, the Kalergi plan is real, and this is their intentions for the future of the human race. It's obvious that the alien races in this game are an allegory for human ethnicities. So people call me a racist, and yet High on Life 2's representation of race mixing is a retarded, disgusting Amerimut goblin abomination. So I'm glad that they're just rubbing it in my face, and they're portraying this as a good thing, like I said in the intro. Your sister has no qualms whatsoever that your mother is having sex with a retarded gun and spawned this dysgenic abomination. No, in fact, your father is humiliated several times after this. He's treated as pathetic, while your mother quite literally uses her new man as a gun to help you fight in combat. But I'm getting ahead of myself. As it turns out, you can actually use your half-brother in combat. Killing enemies charges up the hidden Jeppy meter where he gets excited and then you unleash him like a mini BFG, except it's way shittier. Honestly, the mechanic was so superfluous that I forgot I even had him as an ability most of the game. I think I only ended up using him 3 times. Also in this scene, you nearly get killed by a mysterious bounty hunter that says you betrayed him and ruined his life. I wonder who this could be. Jeppy saves us, and then we go on to the next mission. This time, you're hunting down a crypto scammer. Yes, on the long list of horrific people ruining the human race, they decided to pick a guy straight out of Hustler's University. You can tell where the writer's real priorities are, and it's about as funny as you'd expect. You waste a bunch of time climbing up to his penthouse, because you're not allowed to use the elevator, and you have to end up going in paintings, Mario 64 style, which I'll admit, I kind of like that idea. And eventually you teleport to a planet that looks like a PS1 game. I thought you were in the digital world, but they confirm later, no, this is an alien planet that just so happens to look like N64 PS1 era, except the aesthetic is done really poorly. It looks more like Bubsy 3D than Mario 64. The first part of this is obviously full of Zelda references as you fight your way through the Lost Woods and rescue a Tingle-like character.
We're gonna pound your tight little ass in the face.
Excuse me? And yes, they make the obvious joke that he's probably a pedophile, though the game ruins this by never explicitly explaining or even hinting to what his actual crime is, just saying that it's so horrible it would bump this game up to an adult-only rating. Wow, I love meta humor. This leads to the second legitimately funny joke in the game.
There was like this big misunderstanding, and they really just don't like me right now, right? Okay? In fact, you could get in a lot of trouble if you're seen with me. I just need to know, are you my friend?
We're best friends.
Yes, we're best friends, Apples.
Ah, thank God. I knew you felt the same way.
You're friends with Apples?
What's wrong with you? Bringing him here?
Fuck that guy. We barely know him. He's just some creep we met in the woods.
Set up punchline, let's go. Then after exploring a generic medieval village, we come across our next Gatlian, a Bow, who is about to be hanged by the townspeople for trying to help them by returning the money that they were scammed out of. Now, of course, in this segment, you're given the illusion of player choice, as you have a time limit to convince the townspeople that they shouldn't kill him. Of course, I just waited it out to see what happens, and...
I now pronounce you dead! No!
What happened?
Oh, wait. I think I'm good. Yeah, I'm good, y'all. That shit didn't work at all. I don't even have a net. I'm just a bow and arrow.
Yeah, they stole this joke directly from Conker's Bad Fur Day. Our new buddy here is named Bowie, yes, really, and he talks like a Mexican Zoomer. Thankfully, they don't lean into the Zoombonics too much. And before you ask, yes, they directly reference Jar Jar Binks by name, completely lampshading it, and they even bring the joke back up later, saying the guy watched The Phantom Menace and loved Jar Jar Binks and wants to meet him. How is that even funny? Literally no one has ever thought that in the history of humanity. And to make matters worse, you even meet a guy later in the game who talks like Jar Jar Binks, except without doing the accent. What is even the joke here? Also, despite the fact that this whole level is basically a video game world, there are very few actual video game references, especially nothing that an actual gamer would enjoy. Probably because people who made this game never played any games growing up, so I shouldn't be too surprised. Regardless, you get to the end of the level, you fight the evil wizard hustler Grifter. Yes, they even use the word Grifter in the game. And the whole joke of this area is that the townspeople actually want to be exploited by him. The reason they were hanging our Jar Jar Binks Bow is because he tried to be a Robin Hood and steal from the rich and give back to the poor people who were being hustled by the wizard. And so it's funny, the leftists essentially poke a giant hole in their own ideology by admitting that the average man is too stupid to have voting rights or not get taken advantage of by the rich, the powerful, and the more intelligent. But no, they still have to be protected anyway, even if they want to kill you for helping them. I have never heard a better argument against socialism in my entire life than this. In any case, the next day we are informed that our mother is waiting for us at the Space Forest Cafe. Yeah, Squanch Games got the license to say all of these other brand names, but they couldn't get the Rainforest Cafe for whatever reason. So before I headed there, I did a minor diversion. There's a little mini speed dating area that you can go to, and this is one of the other mildly funny moments. The problem is so many jokes in this game actually have a decent setup, but then the punchline is either incredibly anticlimactic or over-explains the joke like a leftist meme and completely ruins it. But at least I was allowed to be mean to NPCs, which is always funny. To get to the Space Force Cafe, we have to go back to the zoo from the intro mission, which requires us to skate through a sewer. In the meantime, Jan, Travis's wife, calls him saying that she knows exactly what he's been up to, and basically just bitches him out for like 5 straight minutes. And then we arrive at the Space Force Cafe, and this feels like yet another disgusting humiliation ritual. I have never hated a mother character in a piece of media more than this woman, I swear.
The reason Les and I wanted you both here tonight is because Les wanted to get your approval before he asks for my hand in marriage.
Let's do it.
Oh my god, you already have a kid together. Do whatever you want.
That's very sweet of you, Lizzie. How do you feel about this, hun?
I'm going to kill you.
It won't last. Cling to the false promise of marriage if you need it, but remember, you will die alone.
Yeah, get fucked. He's so right. Now, our father doesn't make it to this family dinner. We find out that he's part of a cult at a retreat in Wyoming. And so even though this is a space game, and that should be part of the appeal, going to alien worlds and solving their problems and killing people, we head to Wyoming to go rescue our father from this cult. Now, at first, it feels like it's just going to be a giant joke about how people in midlife crises end up in these weird cults to find themselves. And it's about as cliche as you'd expect. There's a bunch of parallels between Travis and your dad, with them both being pathetic and having no friends and trying to reinvent themselves. And it's also stated your dad is over 60, so I guess your character really is canonically like a 30-something-year-old millennial, even though he's riding around on a skateboard and shooting people and shit. I don't have anything against people in their 30s being heroes in games, but this feels like a really pathetic, like, self-insert man-child fantasy instead of having a family and kids. It comes across as incredibly pathetic, and I can't help but feel that's exactly what the writers intended. In any case, on the way to rescue our father from this cult, of course, the leader of the cult is this stereotypical, like, hippie woman, and we find out our father is being locked up for thinking for himself. And on the way, Travis's wife, Jan, crashes down from space to try and have a divorce with him, and she decides, no, actually, Travis is a badass and sexy now, since he's not as pathetic as he was before. And so now you get 2 pistols, which I have to admit was an okay way of handling it. I just wish she wasn't such a whore for the rest of the game after this. I already spoiled it in the intro, but yeah, she just straight up fucking hits on every man you come across for the rest of the game if you have her out while talking to NPCs. Anyway, you find your dad and rescue him from a shed and find out that all of the cult humans on Earth have been infected with Las Plagas. Yeah, I don't even know what the hell was going on here. Maybe I missed a dialogue line, but how the hell did these people all get infected by some kind of alien virus? This just fucking comes out of nowhere. I guess because they had to have an action segment in this mission. It couldn't just be movie game shit, which on the one hand, that's good, especially because these actually feel like new enemy types, but it really does just come out of left field. And of course, your mom shows up and helps fight, using Les Do It as like her personal BFG, and constantly emphasizes how much more of a man this stupid ass mentally handicapped gun is compared to her ex-husband. I am holding back so hard saying some antiseptic quote unquote things in this video. This is not funny anymore. In fact, I never thought this was funny. I'm tired of media constantly shitting on dads, and women can literally be fucking whores. Your own mother is glorified for sleeping with an alien gun, and your dad is just an incompetent, pathetic beta male. In any case, whatever. You kill the cult leader, who turns into this giant, disgusting monster. You have to kill the boss like 3 times, just really padding it out. And that's the end of the mission. It felt kind of pointless, had nothing to do with the main plot. It was literally just a father humiliation ritual mission. Truly disgusting. Next mission, we have to head to Party City to get party supplies. Obviously, that's not what ends up happening. We get attacked by the bounty hunter once again, and it turns out to be our suit. Yes, Pseudo just got copied over to the new ski suit, and the original version Humiliation was still in our original bounty suit, and now he hates us, and he almost kills us, but then we both get captured by the fat bitch bounty hunter, who I actually haven't even brought up so far, but she was a recurring boss battle. Not really an important character, even though they really tried hard to make her relevant. So now you and this pseudo end up in a prison cell together, and you have to escape. We find out that the real villain of the game is Nipulon. Wait, who the fuck is Nipulon? Oh, he's from the first game? Yeah, I'll be honest, I completely forgot about him. Obviously, he wants revenge on us for destroying the cartel and nearly killing him, so he just straight up rips our arm off. We survived this no problem, by the way. The wound is never treated, we just have a bloody stump. I guess I'm not supposed to think about it because it's funny. This ends up just being a really cheesy kind of point-and-click adventure-style puzzle where you kind of just hit E on everything and hope it works out. I want to point out at this point, this is where the bugs and unfinished nature of this game become really obvious. I've been kind of just skipping over it for the sake of time, but there's a lot of minor bugs in this game that are distracting, whether it's objects clipping into each other, sound effects either being non-existent or glitching out. Sometimes your guns will just disappear from your hands. Stuff like that isn't really a big deal. Oh, and of course, this is on top of the typical Unreal Engine 5 problems you'll see, like the game running like shit, it crashing for seemingly no reason. And strangely enough, I even completely lost control of the camera at one point unless I was holding left click. And I actually had to restart the boss fight against the Grifter wizard because Jar Jar Binks' trick hole ability, which like tears a hole through reality, the visual effect just glitched out, so I couldn't aim through it to shoot the weak spot of the boss. So that was pretty annoying. But in this segment, I guess I was clicking too fast because a hammer got stuck into my hand for the rest of this segment. But don't worry, if that wasn't notable enough for you, the bugs only get worse from here. In any case, the first pseudo ends up making a gravity gun out of random junk in the cell. You end up putting his AI inside of a Tamagotchi, which you attach to the gravity gun, and then the pair of you escape. But Nipulon catches you right before you get into the escape pod, and he rips your other arm off. But luckily, Pseudo decides to save you after all, even though he hates you. And you wake up back in the arcade where conveniently the robot lady, who has done absolutely nothing this game, has attached two arms that look identical to hers onto you, which, like I said before, you have no gender in this game. So if you're a man playing this, which is going to be 99% of the audience, you now have two pink robot arms. Yeah, that's just the cherry on top of the shit cake. Anyway, we gotta get a move on. So now we got two more bounty targets, the first of which is a famous actor who supports removing the rights of humans. But before I killed him, I decided to explore around the sandbox a little bit. I'm not gonna talk about this in detail. There's really not much to talk about. Instead of the levels being sort of mini semi-linear sandboxes like the first game, all of the missions in this game are ultra-linear movie game segments like I mentioned before. But now there's 3 mini sandboxes to explore and get a bunch of optional treasure chests. I would much rather the levels be a little bit more open and have half as many cutscenes, if that. But it also means there's a couple little optional activities you can do, like I mentioned the speed dating before. You can also bet on these like combat arena segments. And the reason I even bring this up is because to get to the combat arena, you have to travel inside of a Jewish penis alien that was in the DLC for the first game.
I've never seen so many Duffalo up close before. Beautiful creatures, wise eyes, all Jewish too. Canonically Jewish creatures, actually.
So yeah, thankfully this is the only time these disturbing creatures show up in this game, but yeah, the actual mini game is completely brain dead. You just smash 2 buttons over and over again until the guy you bet on wins. Anyway, we get to the actor, and I guess either it's cut content, they ran out of budget, or they really thought this bit was funny, but you just straight up kill the actor instantly with little fanfare. And his conjoined twin, who's a lawyer, decides to join your cause to protect human rights, I guess because he doesn't want to die. That makes sense, at least. And then we're on to our second last target. We have to kill the head of research and development at Rhea Pharmaceuticals, and she's conducting research inside the belly of the giant Loch Ness monster from the earlier mission. It's here that we meet the guy who talks like Jar Jar Binks without the accent.
Misa Dr. Jar Jar Binks. Misa the lead scientist on this site, operating directly under Professor Burkle.
I knew it. I fucking knew it.
There's literally no punchline here. He just talks like Jar Jar Binks. So of course, since this is a video game, there has to be a vor level for whatever reason, so we go inside Nessie's body. We discover that there's ghosts inside of her belly. This is kind of just brushed over. And we discover that the doctor is a dolphin. Yes, this is a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. So we defeat her in a fairly standard boss battle, but then the fat bitch who was the lover of the environmentalist PETA dude from the cruise mission shows up to protect the dolphin. But there's also a baby Nessie who is a reincarnation of the big Nessie, and she convinces the bitch that the dolphin's evil and was conducting experiments, and then the dolphin kind of just unceremoniously gets eaten by the monster the bitch was riding. I'm skipping over a lot of this mission, especially there's like a whole plot point about Creature, how he used to be one of these scientists before he was horrifically mutated into a Gatlian, but none of that shit matters at all. Now let's get to the final mission where we storm Rhea Pharmaceuticals HQ to kill Nipulon. This ends up just being a really prolonged gauntlet of combat arenas. I'm going to briefly go over where the combat ends up being once you have all of your tools. It's more or less exactly what you expect. All you do is use your Q trick hole ability, shoot some guys a few times, switch to your next gun, use Q again, shoot some more times, switch to your next gun, Q, shoot, so on and so forth. You just rinse and repeat using all of your abilities. By the time you cycle back to your first gun, the cooldown is already over. So the combat becomes just this incredibly brainless mishmash of spamming Q and left click while you're riding around on a skateboard. Now, some people might find that fun, maybe. But honestly, if you want a game where you just ride around on walls and double jump around and shoot guys, play Echo Point Nova. That is a way better game than this. And there's no stupid-ass comedy routine. There's like no cutscenes. It is a much better game. It even has co-op. You can play it with your buddies. Great game. Now, could I go into detail about the gun's functions? Maybe, but there's no point. Every gun functions exactly how you assume based on this footage. There's no complexity. Anyway, you fight your way through the corporate offices. You find out Nipulon is already at the Supreme Court, and Helen, the secretary, who I guess was from the first game, decides to fight you instead. But your homie Gene shows up right in the nick of time and crashes into the building with the whole museum. You then use the bounty board from the first game to teleport directly into the Supreme Court, and here's where the game got hard locked. So I'm going to explain what happened, and then I'm going to explain how it was supposed to happen. So normally, you're not allowed to use your guns when you first enter this area. However, for whatever reason, they still allow you to use knifey. And so me, obviously being tired of all this game's bullshit, I walked up to Nipulon, spammed F, shanked him, and then after some dialogue that played, because obviously they intended the player to try and hurt Nipulon, the game just locked up. The game also saved over this file. I tried deleting the file, but of course the Steam Cloud save saved after I initiated the glitch. So what's actually supposed to happen is that you're supposed to take your seat in the courtroom, and then you can shoot Nipulon, and then it initiates the final boss fight. So of course, after several attempts of trying to fix the glitch, I give up and watch the ending on YouTube. Future Synth here, while I was slacking off not editing this video, apparently a hotfix was released. And so even though I had already reacted on stream to the ending, I figured I might as well actually play the final boss myself. And yeah, like I said, it's incredibly apparent this game is blatantly unfinished when it was released. On top of there being like a 5-second awkward silence between dialogue lines to initiate said final boss.
You definitely can't be doing that. You can't shoot your opposition in the middle of court.
Your Honor, it was just the one time.
Sorry, it's out of my hands. The court's got a rule in favor of Rhea Pharma. Have a good day, everyone. There's a great lunch spot around the corner.
Yes!
Ha! Your primitive human impulses have doomed your entire species.
He teleports directly on top of you, force feeds you the human drug to make you start tripping out. Yes, this is a clear ripoff of the Far Cry game's hallucination boss fights. Oh, and it's also a repeat of the concept of the boss fight against Nipulon in the first game, and less creative at that. I think I can give the devs a little bit of credit that they actually made the final boss unique, especially compared to all the ones before this. The unique gimmick here is that you have to use every single gun's trick hole ability to get through a series of platforming challenges while you continue tripping out more and more. There's a bit about a streamer playing the game, which is vaguely funny.
Characters in the game is talking.
That's right, I am talking to you. How many hours a week do you do this shit? How many more fights with your girlfriend are you going to have before you finally give up this?
All right, man. Okay, this is my job. You're talking to me at, so.
Oh yeah? Let's see if you can keep screaming after I start playing copyrighted Beatles.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
But ultimately, you're just riding in a straight line on your skateboard and shooting him while he has a billion fucking health. I think this boss fight took me 10 full minutes. And so the fight ends with him turning your own arm into the drug and feeding it to you, which results into you transforming into some kind of Cronenberg monster monstrosity. And then you finally come down from your high, and then the game just sort of awkwardly ends. Despite witnessing you kill a CEO in his courtroom, the judge rules yes, the humans are clearly the good guys, and despite you chimping out killing hundreds of people over the course of the game, including, again, a CEO, a senator, a movie star, you get away with all of it. And the game ends with a huge party at the Space Force Cafe as you talk to the various quirky NPCs that only had 5 minutes of screen time. And Jan hits on every single male NPC. It's actually unbelievable how cucked Travis is. It's also revealed that your sister and the girl robot are in love with each other. Yes, there's going to be a lesbian marriage, apparently, between human and robot. Who even cares at this point? And then the game just kind of ends as you leave the party. The devs then have the nerve to ask you to buy this dog shit, and then indirectly confirm that Microsoft helped fund this game by paying for it to appear on Game Pass. What an absolutely colossal steaming pile of shit. Honestly, since I had barely remembered the first game, I wasn't sure how much worse this one was, but as I was going back through a walkthrough to get some of the footage for this review, I realized just how much worse this game is, even just as a game. The first game had proper levels with actual exploration and secrets. It wasn't a fucking movie game. Yes, it had a bunch of terrible jokes just like this one, but it still felt like a video game at its core. This is a fucking movie game, or maybe even more accurately, a TV show game. It feels almost episodic. Thankfully, it wasn't sold as an episodic experience, but every single quest feels like a one-off Monster of the Week villain in a Saturday morning cartoon, or actually more accurately, a really shitty Adult Swim animated cartoon, but you get the point. I think at the end of the day, you just have to ask yourself if you want to play the video game version of Rick and Morty Season 6, or whatever the hell they're on now. This is easily one of the worst games I've ever played in my life. The only redeeming aspect is the combat, and even then, it is so incredibly basic, I can't even really call it fun. It gets tiring shooting the same, like, 4 enemy types throughout the whole game. And despite only being 10 hours long, it felt incredibly padded out. Out of those 10 hours, probably only 3 hours were actual gameplay, and the rest were glorified cutscenes. It's no surprise to me that this game bombed horribly. It only had, like, 3,000 peak players on Steam or some shit. This is just another incredibly repulsive game, a lot like Outer Worlds 2. But at least this one had aliens, but even the aliens are just these goofball Rick and Morty reject cartoon characters, so it's not like you can take anything seriously. It's sad because if you stripped away most of the dialogue and maybe fixed up the level design a little bit, there's actually a decent game buried really deep in here, but I can't see any reason anyone would want to play this over a genuine FPS. And if you want to play a comedic game, you're just gonna play Conker's Bad Fur Day. There's so few actually funny video games that I have to pull an example from 30 years ago. Honestly, maybe a better comparison would be Postal 2, because this game certainly made me want to go Postal, in Minecraft, of course. But yeah, that's a game where you can just kill whoever you want, and everything is kind of ridiculous and over the top. And if you just want a raw shooter with similar movement mechanics to this, like I said earlier, Echo Point Nova is a great one. Yeah, I honestly don't have too much more to say about this game. Despite it being so utterly painful to play, I feel like just like the first game, I'm going to forget about 80% of this in a week. So I can only hope that Squanch Games gets shut down and all these developers go homeless in Minecraft, of course. I would never wish that upon any human being. But given that somehow this game got funded to be made in the first place, despite no one giving a single fuck about High on Life 1, I don't have my hopes up. I think somehow the people involved with this, given their genetic heritage, will somehow find funding for a third game, even though nobody asked for it or wanted it. I sincerely hope I'm wrong, but that's about it. See you next time, guys. Wowie zowie!